So let's go ahead just with introductions. And if anyone has updates related to the master plan that they'd like to offer in their introduction, especially since we have two guests with us today. And I will start. I'm Hannah Reckshoffen. I'm the chair and member at large. And I this past Monday, had a really awesome second meeting of the Greenfield Local Cultural Council, where we decided on some grant funding for arts and culture this coming year. So it's really exciting. It's always fun to do that and to know a little bit about what's coming up. So, and I will pass it off to George.
Thank you very much, Hannah. George Palimpsest, planning board rep to this committee and the vice chair. And I will offer that at a recent FRTA meeting, an update was shared about the FRTA access program, which I've shared information with this committee about. It's something that's an individualized kind of service. It's with other people, but you get door-to-door service, and it's also 7 days a week. So it's weekend service.
wow.
It's a bit more expensive than even when they start charging again for the fixed route. It's $3 a trip, but substantially less than a cab would be, or an Uber. And it started in 2019. In October of 2019, there were 28 trips via this with 9 different riders. And as of September of this year, for the month, they did 1,452 trips, and 158 different people took advantage of the service.
Oh my gosh.
And
George, what was
a-
the
at
first number?
I'm sorry?
What was that first number, October 19, 2019, and how many rides?
28 trips, 9 different
Okay,
people.
got it.
And the second was 1,452 trips and 158 different riders. Tina, the administrator of the FRTA, presented this recently at a statewide, I can't think, a statewide meeting that was held, and this was promoted as a model for other other regional transit authorities around the state. Very impressive. Thanks.
Awesome. Phil?
Oh, taking notes. I'm the representative from the city council. Gee, I don't know what, there was a planning board, economic development committee meeting about extending the planned industrial. That was a little rough. We're gonna keep trying, but it passed unanimously through the planning board. And I just submitted my my proposal for restoring Highland Pond, which we're starting very small with a proposal for an aerator, and we'll see if we can get that. That's it. Can you? I don't have my screen on. Can you point to someone else?
Absolutely. Let's go to Marla.
Yes, Marla Warner, Department of Public Works. Basically closing out a lot of huge projects we had this summer. The newest of the news is I presented my 4 capital requests under the 5-year capital last week with CIC. All indications it went well. A lot of infrastructure in there.
Awesome.
So I'd be more than happy to give a full update next month with a little more time on project closeouts and where we're at. So the one project I'm working hand in hand with MJ is West Street is buttoning up for the year. The project's complete. It's got the base blacktop down, and we'll do the final coat of blacktop in the spring because we simply run out of time. So, but we got more accomplished on that project than we thought when we were waiting for water pipe. So it went well.
That's awesome. MJ? Is MJ frozen?
He looks at.
Okay. Nancy? We'll circle back.
There she is.
Here's
She's
MJ.
back.
I'm sorry, my computer says I keep on having an unstable connection.
Oh, don't we all?
Yeah.
I will do my best. I think Marlo just briefed you on the Main Street stuff, correct, Marlo? Just shake your head.
No, I brought them up to speed on West Street as we're closing that up for the winter. I didn't mention Main Street. I just mentioned sometime next month to bring everyone up to speed on everything we got going on. We got a lot there, so.
Well, MJ had a big win on Main Street. If she's unfrozen.
Yes. So I'll be brief, but the list is somewhat long and I'm delighted about that. The Wilsons, I've been telling you still to stay tuned.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
MJ, why don't you turn off your video? You probably would be able, it'd probably work better. If you can hear me.
but
Yeah, MJ, I think
She's
you're gonna have
just
to
teasing
start
us. She
over.
told us to stay tuned.
I know, I was just gonna say, she's just dragging it out now.
I have all night.
Well,
You want me to go ahead until she's unfrozen? and-
Yes, Nancy, go ahead.
Okay. So,
Oh.
now she's, well, no,
she's coming and going. She's unstable.
yeah, she's unstable. There you go. So Nancy Hazard, at large. And I'm usually sort of just, I don't have any updates other than cheering people on who, the fabulous stuff that has happened with Wilson's, the Greenfield Market and housing in Wilson's, both of those things. And I think, well, actually last time, I guess we talked about the housing on Wells Street. So, but I'm still just so excited about it. I'm going to say it again.
Awesome.
Next,
MJ,
has Carol spoken? Oh,
Ethan is,
is MJ with us again?
I don't think so. Carol, do you
No.
want to jump in?
I am Carol Collins, the Energy and Sustainability Director, and I'm a little sad that Greta's not here because I saw she's a kale blazer and got a great award from Joe Comerford and is doing awesome work. And
Oh,
yay for Greenfield and our kids, and she's just awesome. So
no blazer. Oh, that's so great. And I just got an email from Greta. She said she's receiving some appliance deliveries that are late and she's going to try and hop on. So we may see her still.
okay, got to keep all that kale cool.
Oh my gosh, kale blazer. That's too cute. MJ, do you want to give it a go?
Okay, I will try. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, you want to turn off your video? I think you'll be more successful.
All right, but I love looking at you all. Anyways.
I like seeing you.
Sophia. Oh,
Okay,
maybe
the
not.
Wilson's redevelopment, that was announced right before Thanksgiving, where we have the co-op going in the basement and the first floor and upper level residential, somewhere in the neighborhood of 65 units.
Amazing.
The Wells Street shelter expansion, which I think you already know about, the Wells Street, we're going to expand the number of shelter beds slightly, but the real exciting piece of that project is 36 new units of studio apartments that will come with permanent supported services. We received the Massachusetts Downtown Initiative grant to do a parking management study, which is critical given all the moving parts that are happening in our downtown right now. We are starting up, I hired the consultant to facilitate us through the downtown revitalization plan update. Her name's Emily Inez. She knows us because she worked on our streetscape improvement plan earlier this year. And she'll be kicking that off with the advisory group in mid-December, and then we'll have community workshops on that early next year. We issued the RFP for the First National Bank building that went out today, and responses for that are due in the middle of March. You might have heard that the Armory was sold to a local person who already owns commercial property in Greenfield. We're pretty excited about that. Court Square, we dismantled actually the DPW dismantled the pilot for the winter season, and Christian's here. So we also received an urban agenda grant to support Stone Soup's Culinary Institute, which was, we're pretty excited about that. Also, just so you know, our Imaginary Bookshop in downtown got a collaborative workspace grant, as did Greenfield Community College. They also received an urban agenda grant. to partner around this. It's called the Route 2 Creative Initiative, and we're doing that in partnership with Launch Space in Orange.
Amazing.
I think that's it.
That's awesome.
And the one thing I'll also mention is Monday night, we had our first community conversations about conversations around differences. And it was really focused on how people can learn to talk to each other and be solution oriented rather than churning around. But I thought it was a really productive and helpful learning experience. And we had about 60 people who attended. So we were really pleased with the outcome of that. And
Wow.
more that are coming on the agenda once next Monday night, the 5th, and the one after that is December 19th. And those are to move from learning to conversations into practice on how we practice having conversations that are solution oriented.
That's so great. Very cool. Kim?
Kim Boas, member at large. Only thing I have to report is that I submitted a final proposal for funding for CPA to Christian and Community Preservation Committee.
Very cool.
Will you say what it's about?
It's about revitalizing a couple of trails, more as an example of what can be done or should be done with the trails in Highland Park. So there's a trail revitalization, and then there's a trail drainage, and then there's a couple of trails to just do some basic trail repair and put in some water bars to promote better drainage along the trails. And the major work is being done on a spur of the Blue Trail that runs off the main Red Trail that right near where the Bear's Den is, near Satan's Head. The Blue Trail, and then the trail that goes under the power lines towards Cheapside, and the Red Trail are getting some drainage improvements to stop erosion on the trails.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, best of luck to you in your application. Christian, do you want to do a quick introduction of yourself? Or are you a man of mystery this evening?
No, I'm here. Christian LaPlante. I'm the grant program assistant in the community development department with MJ. And since it keeps coming up, CPC, Community Preservation Committee, is reviewing the first 3 applications tomorrow night at 5:30. And those ones are CSO's application for the Well Street shelter expansion, the Franklin County Agricultural Society's barn rehabilitation project, and Brian Lamore's Highland Park Tennis Courts water fountain replacement. So if you're interested in seeing the committee talk about those, that's tomorrow.
Very, very cool. Awesome. And either of our guests, if you'd like to introduce yourself at all, please feel free. I know Susan sent a quick text, but don't feel compelled either.
I'm Charlie McCracken. I live in town. I love Nancy. I haven't seen you in a while. I've been in the energy efficiency world for 45 years. And I currently, I'm a trainer for the Rhode Island Heating and Cooling Program. And we have a very active heat pump program. And seeing as everybody is rather interested in that topic, I just thought I'd, say hello.
Awesome. Welcome.
And I'm a member of the COOL committee, our kind of climate awareness and action committee here in Williamstown. And we've had like a net zero resolution a couple of years ago, and we're building a fire station. And so we're kind of doing some of the same stuff that you guys are doing, but we're a little behind you. So that's why I kind of try to keep an eye on what you guys are doing, because I know you guys are really leading the fight there. So thanks for letting me kind of spy on you.
Absolutely. George, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Hannah. I just wanted to add that, and I apologize to the committee for having to leave early, but it is master plan related in a sense. I also submitted my CPC application a bit ago this afternoon, and this is related to trying to get a safer bikeway between Greenfield and Old Deerfield, which is a specific recommendation of the master plan, page 328. I assume everyone knows that. And 348, sorry. Or 248. Anyway, I don't know.
You're just tricking us now.
But I've been advocating a lot with Deerfield committees to get a mutual process going on here, and I'm actually appearing before the on the agenda for the select board this evening, and so that's why I have to go. They already endorsed it based on some committees' strong recommendation, but I'm going to have a discussion with them this evening, so that's why I have to leave just before 6.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Very cool. And if George, if you haven't met her already, Jessie Dean is our guest next month. And I know that she, as the head of the chamber and the de facto head of the tourism council related to the chamber, I think she'll be very supportive of this, which is very cool. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So next we need to approve our October meeting minutes, which hopefully I got out with enough time to take a look at those. Does anyone, do we start with a motion to approve? Does anyone have a motion to approve or
So moved.
notes?
So moved.
Carol,
Second, Marlo.
Second, yeah,
thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Okay, excellent. Any discussion or corrections? Phil, I loved your hilarity in Sue's note. Yeah,
There's
Carol.
some typos.
we don't care about typos. I wanted to just thank you for doing it because you had to listen to the recording, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot rougher, but that's really great. And the only thing I would just add is I was there. I was coming from fire station, so I was late, but I am mentioned in the minutes, but not in attendance. So
Oh, thank
just
you.
to square that circle, there we go.
Excellent. And quickly, while we're on the subject, quickly for the minutes tonight, Phil, we're missing Greta and Jonah and Tracy. I don't know if you already got those, but any other discussion or corrections, MJ?
It said, when we were talking about the CPA, it says we only have $300 to spend. That's actually
$300,000.
$300,000.
Thank you.
Little projects we're doing, little projects.
Easy run.
Anything else? All right, awesome. So since we already moved to approve them, is that it? Did we do it?
We have to vote.
We have to
we have to
vote.
vote.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Awesome. All opposed? Any abstentions? George, okay.
Yeah, between COVID and the deadline, I didn't get a chance to read them, so I'll abstain. Thanks.
There. All right. Thank you. All right, so next up, I have a very, very quick CPC update. I was able to have a conversation per our last meeting with Travis about kind of our ongoing wondering of how we can support this process. And we did kind of circle back to the CPC feels that having SGIC members read the applications that come in and sort of grading them in some way against their value to the master plan would be very helpful. And I know that a couple folks, I think Tracy and maybe Jonah had offered to kind of come up with a rubric of some kind to do that with. So I don't know the best way to circle back with everyone to get that done. Any thoughts on George, you look like you're preparing to speak. Do you have?
Well, I just wanted to point out, as we were talking about, just for a conflict of interest point of view, 3 members of this committee have applications
Submitted. That's
so
true.
I assume we would refrain from being involved in that,
Right.
but that's my
Agreed.
Do you think that would preclude you from being able to say if something is sort of well or decently related to the master plan? Sort of.
I would be concerned about it seeming like a conflict of interest.
Okay, so
Other committee members who haven't applied, I think that's fine.
okay, that's totally fair. Um,
And just for the record, I had suggested at the last staff meeting, when Travis came and spoke to us and gave us a slideshow that like the DPW or a checkoff list happens on the front end of these applications. As an example, as I didn't know about 12 applications that would need DPW assistance in some way until after the pre-quals were approved. So I kind of had suggested we get out ahead of that up front, so at least my department's aware of it, myself and the engineering department,
yeah,
and what we can assist with, what we can accomplish, what we can't, as we build. An example is our schedule for next year, which is rolling right along for our project. So I'm not sure where that plays in for me being part of the grading. I just wanted to put that information out there that I'd be a checkoff department head on the applications once that gets established. Or maybe if it's not a conflict, it might be helpful in what we're trying to accomplish here on this committee. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I'm not sure either. I mean, this is very, I think because it's the CPC's first year as well, this is all so iterative.
Yeah. And I had made the suggestion and a few others because I dealt with CPC when I was in Hadley. So,
Right.
you know, not that we're set up the same way we have to be, but at least the workings of it I was familiar with down there and how it was accomplished, so to speak. So
Yeah. Interesting. I think,
Does it make
Yeah.
sense that we might have solicited a couple volunteers from this committee just to work as a small group together
sure.
to review and, make, bring to us and or CPA a recommendation or at least some comment on how the proposal supports the work that we're trying to do in CJIC.
I think that sounds awesome, especially if it sounds like we're gonna have to exempt a few people anyway. And the main thing I think that CPC was looking for too is that if there are applications that are especially aligned with the master plan, in our opinion, or in a subcommittee of our committee's opinions, any letters of support, any kind of input will help when projects are ultimately voted on, which is not until May or June. So there's actually a significant amount of time to do this. So with everyone who's here tonight, I guess, is there interest from folks here in being part of this subcommittee that perhaps would review applications and maybe just comment on for the CPC their alignment with the master plan? Totally fair. So we'll make Greta and Jonah and Tracy do it.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind doing it and helping since I'm going to be on the front end, hopefully, of these, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that plays out.
Well, and
with the, yeah, I think you know what I'm trying to say.
absolutely. And I do think, one of the things that Travis and I talked about too was feasibility is a huge part of these projects. So even if you're looking at it with an eye that is both part master plan and part feasibility as a department head, I mean, that I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, if it was that like he hoped all department heads would read it, or at least department heads who were required for a project success would read applications and comment on the feasibility anyway. So I'm not sure that you would get out of reading it, actually.
Right. And I was in search of more information also, because there's a lot that goes into any project, especially municipal funds, the procurement piece. We have two procurement officers. You have Laura Phelps, and then you have Alan Torog in the DPW, who is like running with his hair on fire, procuring year round for just DPW.
Yeah.
There was a lot of questions that came up, and I think we can work through the process, but there's a lot that goes into this. I know we got a lot of time between now and May, but where is Laura going to be at? Where is Alan going to be at? I know where they're going to be at come May or June. They're going to be putting out some sizable projects and constant procurement too. And also probably closing out the library and getting rolling on the fire station. And there's a lot of work there too in procurement. So just all these little pieces we got to think about. and how it's all gonna come together to make us a good puzzle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Christian and then Nancy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that starting last week, as the applications started coming in, there is a checklist now to send to most of the department heads in the city. So they are getting out to them at this point. I think, Marlo, you're kind of hoping in the future to get that kind of notification for the pre-applications too. That might also be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, an example is the rec department or the rec commission endorsed, I think there's 10 projects. And as most of us, I think, know, but if not, DPW handles all the facilities, all the parks, all the maintenance, all the repair, and then obviously the upkeep of any added infrastructure. So I'm in the process of building budget right now. So that kind of goes along with these projects, along with our projects. As we increase our facilities and increase infrastructure, my budget stays level funded. It's going to have to increase and potentially staff later on to maintain all these projects. So it all kind of plays into my capital mind when I'm doing my capital for the year and building my budget. So it was a matter of being included from the start. So I can look at my budget and say, okay, this is going to happen. So I'm going to have to add X, Y, and Z to these account numbers in order for us to support this new infrastructure. As we know, an example is the skate park's coming aboard. Nothing's maintenance free. We're going to have to maintain that park from the DPW perspective. So all these projects, it's good to know ahead of time, these much smaller projects, because it does add maintenance, and, upkeep,
Right.
and repair. So just, I'm trying to be out ahead of it so that I can support all these really good projects. I'm not opposed to any of them, trust me, but I also don't want to fail on the other end supporting them.
Yeah,
When they're up and running. So
absolutely. Nancy
Did Christian speak?
did.
Oh, anyway, okay. I just was thinking about, would I be willing to review some of them? I guess the answer is yes, not all of them, but here and there.
Yeah.
And I already have actually reviewed a couple of them. And I don't think that would make me ineligible to look at any of the other ones, but that you guys can decide that.
Absolutely. All right. Any other comment before I share one more thing? Okay. One thing that did come up as something to keep in mind for next year, when we have a little more lead time to think about SGIC's involvement of and support of the CPC's process, is that I had mentioned to Travis a while ago when we first met that we sort of, hope at some point to get back to our in-person forums, and we did the first one and it was so great, and hopefully we'll do that at some point. And he did mention, as I'm sure people in this committee know as well, that CPC is mandated to do at least one public forum around the CPA funds and encouraging public interaction and awareness, but that if we were interested in either partnering on and or hosting additional forums, that would be very welcome. And so that might be a great platform to consider for an in-person event next spring or something, to make sure that people are aware that these funds exist, and especially as we work through our own priorities to seek out or at least bring awareness to items in the master plan that we think would make good projects, and look for folks who might be interested in spearheading applications. So just to kind of plant that seed, that's a very welcome way to interact with the process from the CPC's perspective too. So assuming we can come back in person in the spring. Marlo.
it just, it dawned on me, I meant to mention on the updates is, and MJ can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have coming on the radar is public input and response and meetings concerning Main Street coming up early in the year. And I'm sure that this committee is going to be right on top of it, or wanting to attend or have any input on that, because I know it's come up numerous times with the bike lanes, and we've talked about it for approximately a year now. So I did fail to mention that. I just I got numbers on the brain with capital and building budget, so I apologize. But that's definitely coming up in the January timeframe. We should know hopefully soon when that is, and I can get an email out to everybody
That's
when
great.
that happens. So
Great.
I didn't mean to take you off track, but I didn't want to forget.
No, that's great. Phil?
Yeah, Marlo, we've had Main Street and parking on the Economic Development Committee agenda, just rolling and rolling and rolling, waiting for you, waiting for you to be, for the time to be ripe. I'm wondering whether we want to try to do that with you, or would that just complicate things?
Well, I think we got to bring the schedule together first, and it does take a little bit of time to procure, you know, once I got the funding for the engineering, and then we meet and put everything together. You know, we're talking about dig once. There's a lot of behind the scenes that's come together before we can, I guess, for lack of better terms, launch this to the public for comment. We've been, MJ and I have done a lot of work behind the scenes, her department, my department. So that's kind of what the holdup is. And I think the intent, MJ, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have my notes in front of me, but the intent is to combine with committees or invite dual committees, if my memory serves me right.
Right. I think that the game plan was to have sort of a workshop format that
Yeah,
would
the
involve,
first.
that would invite all the committees that had an interest in any aspect of the Main Street Improvement Program together. You know, we've got a consultant on board, you know, he's working for Marlo's department, or they're working for Marlo's department. And we actually discussed the number of requests that have come forward about, you know, parking and traffic, you know, economic development. Number of committees are interested in being involved in this. So we're going to be scheduling up one community workshop where all the committees can come in and participate in that process.
Right. You know, the other piece of it is what's below the ground. We talk about the new pavement and the bike lanes and how it's going to look, but it's a very large amount of work to run up all the infrastructure underneath the ground. As a matter of fact, I brought a company into TV and all the sewer lines, drain lines. We sent all the information on the water mains, and we're trying to determine at this point in what they call non-participating. It's kind of an oxymoron. We're participating. Mass DOT won't pay for all the infrastructure repair, but we can make it part of the same project and pay out of our pocket for our infrastructure upgrade, which will also include IT and GSAT, getting some conduit in the ground we've talked about. So there's a very, very large workup going behind the scenes to get to where we want to get to on these workshops. So again, I don't mean to be jabbery tonight, but it's a lot of work behind the scenes for MJ and I actually, so.
And part of that is because we're looking to the CDBG funds to help fund some of that engineering for the non-participating piece that Mass DOT won't cover.
Got it. Carol?
Do you know when the construction is supposed to begin on that? The mayor mentioned, I think 2027, which I did.
So it's not an actual construction date. The TIP TPO process, excuse me, it's programmed for FY 27.
Wow.
But if we have our work done, the way these projects work, I think maybe way back when, 3-4 years ago, I had mentioned how all of a sudden Wisdom Way backed up 2 years and they were going to start it the following year because Greenfield did their due diligence. They had the engineering done. If you do your engineering piece, the project is paid for by Federal Highway Administration and Mass DOT. The city is, or the community, the engineering and design is on them. So the faster we move through engineering and design, there's a possibility this project gets backed up. But yes, Carol, it's programmed for FY 27 now. But I don't know, MJ and I are a pretty good team. We're working right ahead with this and keeping Fuss and O'Neill moving. It could back up to 26 or even I wouldn't say 25. I don't want to put that out there, but.
And when Marlo says back up, that usually means it goes further out. But in my mind, well, the way he's describing it, it actually advances it in the schedule.
Yep.
Yeah. It's going to happen. It could happen sooner. I'll put it in layman's terms.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah,
especially if we're aggressive, and I think we're moving along pretty good, so.
that's so exciting. All right. Well, just to round out the CPC support conversation, I think I'll follow up by email with the folks that seem to be interested, and maybe we can talk about just ways to go through applications and share support. Does that make sense? Is it okay to do that outside of this meeting? Open meeting law really scares me. I don't understand. Okay, awesome.
As long as the email's not to a quorum of the committee. So as long as you're emailing
Oh,
five or fewer.
none of this makes sense. Thank you, Christian. Don't email a quorum. Got it. Okay. Very cool. And I will just really finish by saying that Travis expressed a few times just how appreciative he and the CPC are of SGIC's interest and support and mutual goals, that it just really feels like a good alignment with them as well. George, did you have something?
Yeah, just an additional technical point about what Christian just said.
Yes.
Not to email to a quorum, nor should people share it with other members of the committee and then eventually end up with a quorum. That's,
Okay.
yeah, that's covered by open meeting law as well. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. When in doubt, ask George is what I do.
It's so funny. I'm slowly picking up all the things. All
Well,
right.
the members will talk among themselves and make share their thoughts with us.
Yeah.
Their thoughts with the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee, and then forward that recommendation to the CPA.
Okay.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, we do have some time. So even if it's something that we get, this could be on our agenda in January or something to discuss. And anyone who needs to recuse themselves can, though I'm sure there's some, I don't know, info that would be helpful. Okay. All right. So the last item on the agenda is kind of continuing our priorities discussion, which I know has been a little scattershot, and especially missing our meeting earlier this month, which did give folks more time to kind of put stuff on the spreadsheet. But I wanted to kind of hone in on what the spreadsheet is for and what we do with it from this point. That's my goal for this meeting tonight, because there's so much content on there, which is really fantastic and helpful. And so I think it would be great to have a discussion about what feels like the best next step around honing in on priorities, and then also figuring out what to do with some of our priorities. Because as is shown in this spreadsheet, we have a lot of them, which is awesome. So I know that we did add a column to the spreadsheet around sort of agreement on priority, that was folks just sort of chiming in on what also feels important to them. And I think at some point we had talked about honing this list down to about 10 priorities that we were really going to focus on and work on in 2023. I think that would be a challenge at this point based on how many there are. So I'd love to get feedback from everyone on kind of what feels like a helpful next step with this spreadsheet. I think that I wish Greta was here, because she had made a suggestion last time and now I'm forgetting what it was, but it was something around, I can't remember now. I'm gonna have to reach out to her. She had an idea around like prioritizing or putting in some kind of numbering system so that we could really put priorities in order. But if I can just open it up to the committee right now around what feels like the most useful way to start digging into some of these priorities and moving forward on some of them. And we can just kind of brainstorm around how to best utilize this spreadsheet, especially new members who have brought new priorities and ideas, I think. Carol?
I always like to go for the easiest, most straightforward, so I would love to just go section by section, and I think it can go fairly quickly.
Cool.
And I think we were supposed to have an hour, but we're past that, but I think we can make some decent headway.
Yeah, awesome.
I don't know if anyone else has ideas. And I couldn't understand all the columns, so I finally got to look at it right before the meeting. My initials are all over the place.
If I may make a suggestion that may help move it along.
Yes.
I see there's some stuff on the list. I was tempted to cut and paste my whole capital 5-year and plaster it on there. Obviously we're infrastructure, we're regulatory, but I see some items on there that I'm dealing with in my 5-year capital and every year going forward under regulation, consent order, so on and so forth. Stormwater, sidewalks, stuff like that. That's going to be an ongoing thing till the time I retire and beyond. I'm just making the suggestion that they're all great ideas, because I would take as much money yearly as I can for sidewalks, but it's ongoing in my department and it's always on the radar and we're always working on them.
Yeah, so what about going through and perhaps identifying a couple of things like underway, needs addressing, future idea kind of thing, so that if there's something that's already being addressed, I don't know that that's something that we need to spend a lot of time on. Which is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, like the stormwater and I.
Yeah.
I've announced a couple of times now. We are making headway. The numbers are data's starting to show it, and that's something we're going to be dealing with for the next 5 to 10 years, regardless under consent order. Like I said, sidewalks, working with the CDA commission and whatnot. That's an ongoing. We got grants out there right now. We're waiting to hear on. Those are ongoing. I'm always going to be battling to do more and improve, either under regulation or code, so on and so forth. So I just thought maybe some of the other priorities would be higher priority for this committee, since I'm already working on them continuously, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm just adding to the spreadsheet so that I can go through and kind of quickly be putting in a number next to each item. I have 1 is equaling underway, something that's already being worked on in some department. 2 needs attention, as in it's something that we feel we could really bring some attention to in some way. And 3, a future idea or need that maybe either is not a top priority for us or feels a little far out. Any other ways that we could numerically denote items in here that don't fall into those 3 categories? Carol? And then Phil?
I would just say that what I noticed is that a lot of things kind of, as is the case, they're kind of connected. So maybe a 4 that says like works with another strategy, or maybe we can combine a few into one strategy to accomplish many goals.
Awesome. Phil?
I was just going to suggest, as someone who used to make charts for a living, that rather than adding numbers, if the words are short enough, you could just write underway.
Okay.
Needs attention, and then the chart becomes much easier to read. You don't have to refer to the schema.
Okay. I can do that. Carol?
Can we all look at the Google Drive doc now without it
Yep.
messing anything up?
Absolutely.
And Phil, I didn't know you did charts for a living.
I was a science editor for many years. We did a lot of charts.
I thought you were going to volunteer to do some.
No.
Is that what you're doing? All right.
Carol, you're good.
All
Gotta
right.
try.
Well, then let's start going. And if we come across something else that needs a word or a number, we can just jump in with it. So the first section that we had was land use and environment. The sections do go according to the sections of the master plan. So the first item in here was reduce land lost to development. Supporting zoning for increasing density, such as smaller lot size, setbacks, multifamily housing, etc.
Hey,
Uh,
Hannah, can I
yes.
suggest that even though we shouldn't have numbers when we say whether or not it's underway, needs attention, or future idea, maybe it makes sense and I've turned my video back on. If we all just sort of vote and say what we would do, 1, 2, and that way we have a sense of where everybody in the group is sort of all at once on that.
Sure. So then I'm going back to my number system. Sorry, Phil.
Okay.
So, all right. So at quick glance, numeric response to this, I feel like this potentially is something that's underway. I feel like there's a lot of attention being paid to this item. Okay. Any dissension on that?
Yeah, this is Nancy. I mean, it's been proposed a lot about dealing with the zoning and the lot size, and there's been a huge amount of pushback and people not wanting anything to do with it. So I don't know. I think it needs some, if we really want to move it forward, it's going to take some effort.
Okay.
Public education and the whole bit.
Got it. Carol, and then MJ.
So, Nancy, I agree. And so I use the column that said response and comments to try to add in some thoughts and ideas. And one of them that I think is really key, and I really see as a just my idea, the committee would have to discuss if it feels right. But I think we can serve a really valuable role by providing outreach and education, bring in an expert who can talk about. There's communities that are doing amazing things with zoning to achieve the desired results. And I don't think smart growth is used as much anymore, but that's what I'm an old person, so that's what I use. But so I think people always push back, and we've had this with the ADUs. We've had this with pretty much anything, basically because they don't understand it and they have these preconceived notions. So I always feel like it's worth the effort, if it's done well, to provide really targeted education by someone who can provide examples and really engage. So that's why I put that in that column.
Yeah, then that makes total sense. Does that feel like a role for the SGIC to play, as in potentially having a panel or something, or does it feel like there are other groups that are working on that? MJ?
I'm not answering that question.
That's okay, sorry.
I'm going back and saying, I think in terms, we could get tied up and have endless conversation about each little one.
Yes.
I think it would be helpful for us to try to do a sort of a quick sort and identify the ones where we have some consensus in terms of where they are in your 3-point scheme.
Yeah.
And then we can circle around and have a more substantial discussion on the ones where we're either not so much in consensus or where there's a need for more conversation. I'm just trying to figure out how to get through this list.
Yep.
In a
Absolutely.
reasonable amount of time. And in my mind, it's focus on the areas where we agree, focus on the areas where we disagree, focus on the areas where there's a broad range of response, and sort of tackle it in that approach.
This is Nancy. In light of what Carol just said also, is I think one of the things we really need to think about is there a good role for SGIC in moving this forward? That's really the question, right?
That is the question. Yes.
So it's a little different than saying this is a high, is it a high priority for us, or is it a high priority for the city, whatever.
Right. No, this spreadsheet is about high priorities for us.
That we can do something.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. All right, so on this first item, it sounds like the general consensus is that there are some things underway, but also room for some education. So we can definitely circle back to that. The next item was safeguarding agricultural land, encouraging agricultural landowners to put land in APR or other creative ways to conserve and safeguard it. I'm seeing a 2, which is needs attention. Other feels 3. This is a future thing. Other feelings on that? Future? Anyone else? All right,
The Ag Commission needs to work on it.
2. The Ag Commission. There's an Ag Commission. Okay, interesting. All right, so I feel like we're in.
Can I ask a question about APR?
Yeah.
I was surprised to hear the mayor say that she was looking at some land that's set aside for agriculture, and she was looking at the procedure for undoing that. Is that possible?
It's
MJ says, yeah.
difficult. It is possible. It is extremely difficult. And the only reason we're looking at that is because of our need for industrial land, Phil.
Right. Okay. I didn't,
It's
I
very
good,
difficult.
thank you.
It's very difficult.
Interesting.
Well, here's the question. Is that something that the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee would support or not? It seems sort of contrary to where this committee's aimed.
That is a great question. I'm going to table it. if
I'm
that's
not.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big question.
Got it.
But interesting. So I'm gonna safeguarding agricultural land. I'm gonna put as between 2 and 3, so we can come back recognizing that there is some strong interest in that being a priority. Next is backyard and community gardening initiatives. Would love to see robust network of home and community gardens across the city. I think that's really cool. 1 underway.
Important, but not SGIC.
Okay. Other
Mm.
feelings? 1 as something that's being addressed? Cool. Food security, access and quality, promote, support, putting agricultural land into APR, more community gardens, etc. So related, I think, to community gardening initiatives. Food security.
Some
Feeling
overlap.
so maybe this is also something that's underway from different groups. Okay. Increase areas of productive landscapes, encourage residents to reduce lawns, plant natives, and educate them about the negative consequences of using herbicides and pesticides. Underway.
It is underway. I'll volunteer that in Highland, I mean, on Chestnut Hill, where do I live? There's that kind of a crabgrass revolution going on where people are saying we're not going to rake anymore, we're not going to hire snows anymore. We want the critters to come live in our front yards. So it's a little bit going on its own, sort of naturally arising.
I get a lot of side eye from my neighbors on that front, but I feel committed to it. All right, next up is create open space committee. I see this as the first strategy in the plan, but appears we don't have one. Not sure I have all the info. That was a comment from Jonah, who is not here tonight. Do we have an open space committee? We do.
We have an open space and recreation plan.
Open space and
Yeah.
recreation plan.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's heavy in recreation.
Okay.
The issue.
I did put in comments, and
Yeah.
so anyway, I did ask Eric Tworog. There is not a standing open space committee. And I don't know if that's an SGIC role, but it's anyway, not in the works.
What I know about it, it was nixed by the mayor before, and so they put together a committee just to do the plan, but not an ongoing committee, which is what Eric wanted.
Interesting. Okay. Is
that a city council role or what?
no.
Wouldn't rec department be? lead or? I don't know.
Well, I kind of agree with you, Carol. I know Christie's pretty heavy into the open space and everything that's being put together, or has been put together on that, so.
So does this,
I think that this is one of the questions, is that, is it something that SGIC should be taking up, or is it already being addressed? Doesn't mean that we don't advocate for more, you know, for things to
Okay.
happen in that context, but do we need to take up the mantle of advocating for it just because it's in the master plan?
right, right. Or is it something that Jonah could look into on his own kind of thing?
Yeah, maybe ask Christie if she wants one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next up is develop priority conservation corridors. And this one does not have an explanation, so I'm not exactly sure what Jonah means by that one. But it sounds like that too might fall under other purview. Pollinator corridors for beauty and health, encourage Greening Greenfield, Just Roots, and others to implement the pollinator corridor plan for COG drew up in 2021. Work with DPW to develop roadside mowing schedule that supports pollinators. Underway. Okay. This is exciting. Habitat restoration, planting and invasive removal. Planting native trees, shrubs, and herbaceous plants, address climate and biodiversity crisis, support Greenfield Tree Committee, tree planting efforts, support volunteer efforts to remove invasives. Underway.
It's definitely underway.
Definitely underway.
Does this mean we can pull up all the Norway maples?
You hate Norway maples?
Phil, read the tree ordinance. You'll put me in jail.
But there's all the volunteer Norway maples, and anyone who has it on their private property can choose to cut those down.
Yeah, but I got street trees on the brain when Phil said that, so.
Green River Trail, find funds to implement 2008 Green River Trail vision. This one's awesome. Thoughts on that? Two, priority. Other folks interest in that priority?
I'm always been interested in that. It's just,
Yeah.
there's a great brochure that's so inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Look at that. We have like a solid priority. Amazing. All right. And that is it for the top section. We're moving on to transportation. Of course, we just lost George to go talk about transportation. Carol.
I would just like to say, and kind of in light of, I just want to say it anyway, but now that we have a new climate act in Massachusetts, we have this Inflation Reduction Act. And I think that our lens for transportation has changed since the master plan was done. And it really needs to address equity and inclusion as a top priority. I think quality of life is also a top quality, but I think it really needs to focus on providing options and access to everyone. And so I was going to try to add that in, but I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
Yes. I think that's a great one to add in there. And I feel like that's a really important point of how things are developed.
And it kind of
Before we move forward,
item, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I'd just like to speak to, I had some noise at my house that I couldn't really talk over. So I want to speak to the whole open space committee. I'm just looking at the Greenfield Open Space and Recreation Plan that was just developed, and it says it's developed by the Open Space Planning Committee. And somebody said we don't have a committee, but this says we have a committee. So,
How it works is that a committee is put together to do that one plan, and that plan gets updated how often? 5 years, 7 years, I forget.
Right.
And then that committee is disbanded.
Mm.
So that's the issue.
Mhm.
And at least with trails, I feel that, you know, there's some existing responsibility that rests with recreation and DPW that they're too busy. They have too many other priorities, but it is their responsibility to maintain trails. And so I don't know whether we need a new committee, at least in that respect, to tell them what to do, because I think they already have that requirement on their plate.
Mhm.
So I think I'd like to see something more along the lines of rec and DPW saying, okay, we're going to assess the needs. We're going to do X, Y, and Z over the next couple of years. And that may tie into your 5-year capital plan, Marlo. I don't know, but I just think that there's existing responsibilities that can't be met because of time and money.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I wanted to say on that. Thanks.
Totally. Phil?
I wonder if there's an opportunity with something like trail management of doing a public-private partnership with volunteers. There is a Friends of Greenfield Highland Park committee that, if it was organized and if the city would provide the gloves and the bags and the rakes, you might get people out to do it, kind of the way that the Green River cleanup works every year. That's a wonderful model. I wonder if we could reproduce it. Anyway, that's my thought.
Well,
Carol,
I do know the local Boy Scout troop, since I run that Boy Scout troop, has done many cleanups and many repairs and different things along the trails, either as an Eagle Scout project or as community service. So there's that option too. I'll put that out there.
I also think that there's a lack of knowledge on actually what to really do, because we're not talking about picking up trash when I talk about trail maintenance.
Right.
It's fixing the trails, just like you upkeep roads, because you have to do maintenance to upkeep roads. You have to do maintenance to upkeep trails. There are things that people need to know. And so there needs to be, if there's going to be a volunteer effort, there needs to be knowledgeable people in that volunteer area. And
Absolutely.
AMC provides that type of training. It costs a little bit of money, but people with the city and or volunteers could actually do that.
Definitely.
I know some of the upgrades and
I'm going to keep us moving. Sorry, guys. I know there's so much. Carol, did you have something quickly?
I was just going to concur with Phil and also with Kim. I think a lot of trail maintenance is done by volunteers, and that should be something where I think the SGC could encourage it and advocate for it and help it on its way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So to keep moving, with transportation, the first thing we had was improved bicycle infrastructure and promotion of cycling for local travel. Greenfield Bikes Initiative established a bicycle committee. Priority opinions on this? Already underway? Okay.
I would say it's underway. I mean, everything we do, we're adding bike lanes, or where we can add bike lanes, even in our infrastructure with roadways and whatnot. Main Street project's a good example. Mass DOT is on a big push for pedestrian and bicyclists. They're even doing it on their main highways now with bicycle lanes. So
nice.
It's underway on my end, but the other piece, George, I think wants to establish a committee. I would just say we're underway. It's always on my radar too, when we put the paving program together in that respect.
Very cool. Completing Main Street parking and bike lane process.
Underway.
I think that's what you're talking about. Excellent.
One caveat, I don't want to say that it's a done deal yet, though.
Yes.
And the way it's stated, it sounds like it's a done deal. I think it's, it's in design and discussion.
Okay, absolutely.
There are opponents to it, and we're going to hear from them soon.
Yeah, and that's why we're putting it together, the public forums too, and the workshops.
Nice.
I'm for it.
Carol?
Again, I made a comment about e-bikes, which I'm a convert. They're awesome and really need to adopt the use of those to get people out of their cars. And there's a new incentive program. So I'd like to see that get incorporated. Again, didn't exist when we did the master plan, but
Yeah,
very important.
absolutely. Bike path linking Greenfield and Deerfield. I would say that since George just left us for another committee, that's underway. And I think a great idea. FRTA continue advocating for better service weekend and evening. It sounds like that's very much underway, which is awesome. Those numbers were incredible. And then electric buses, advocate for electric bus use where possible. I think, Carol, you've referred to this before. Yeah, underway. Awesome. Moving on to economic development, downtown revitalization plan. MJ says underway. So cool. Expanding areas zoned for industrial park underway. Very cool. Downtown art and activities, support arts and other downtown activities to increase downtown foot traffic. I would say this is underway, but I would also say it's a great thing to pay attention to. Yeah, MJ is giving an underway and priority. I agree with that. Yeah. Downtown beautification, street trees everywhere, pruned and healthy, very large planters with trees in them for Main Street intersection, courts and Court Square asphalted area, storefront upgrades. I feel like personally that this falls into the 1-2 thing as well. Very cool.
Yeah. I just learned that the tree committee has 100 trees looking for a home.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Are they looking, they're looking for downtown homes?
Well, they're asking for suggestions for where they should go. These are free trees we got from I don't know where.
Yeah, Nancy, where do we start with that grant? I think there's 100 left, right? We're coming into the
Right.
down stretch on that.
Right, I asked about those 100 trees because I thought, oh, yeah, I know where I could put those, but they're not quite so free. So I mean, the tree committee has quite a few plans for them. It's not like and they're going.
And we got and as you know, Nancy, we have certain parameters where we can plant, where we can't, and it's through grants. So.
Interesting.
We've planted a lot of trees the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. Citizen Energy Initiative, motivate more homeowners, landlords to insulate, upgrade homes and apartment buildings, coordinate with Mass Save, but city initiated. Green community funds eligible, ? Focus on underserved residences who may own homes but don't want or can't deal with a debt obligation. Like they'd have a 0 interest loan program. MJ says priority. Other agreement on this as a priority?
I would say it's underway. There's things underway.
Underway?
Yeah, this is Carol's job, right? She worked hard.
1 of 100, yes.
Yes. All right.
No, I all of these things that we've just talked to about downtown, it is clearly in my head. These are all SGIC things. These are things that SGIC should be speaking up about and supporting and in that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So I'm going to put that one in there as a 1 and 2 also. And of course, my brain always goes to when we will be able to have another community forum, because that's what I feel like we were talking about. CSO expansion of shelter and affordable units underway. Yeah. House the homeless, housing first. Underway. I feel like that's underway.
Yep.
Upper story residential development. Oh my gosh, yeah. Underway. Come on. 1 and 2. It's kind of that downtown purview as well. Housing on Hope Street, temporary fire station location. Future. I see a future. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I
Future.
only say that because the other housing stuff is surfaced and it might cause some reconsideration. I mean, the motivation was there, but with the space.
Got it. The rehabbing of abandoned homes and homes taken for taxes. A 1 and a 2 underway, but needs some attention. All right. Moving on to natural, historic, and cultural resources. Develop plan for restoring Highland trails and maintenance guidelines. Feelings on this as a priority?
Well, it's underway because Kim applied for it.
That is true.
And Kim just spoke about working with the rec department and trying to get them to be, or the rec commission.
And Phil sent me a information on a grant program, Mass Trails Funds,
Awesome.
that's going to be coming up for submission, I think, in February. I briefly spoke with Christy regarding that, Christy Moore, the rec department. She says it's a priority with the mayor, so they're going to be submitting something. I don't know whether, Marlo, you know anything about it or not, but.
Don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. Preserve more open space with focus on continuous wildlife habitat and migration corridors.
We
This-
just talked about a lot of this.
Yeah. So it seems like that is somewhat
Number
underway and
4.
also not entirely on number 4 connected to other items.
That's
Okay.
what I'd suggest.
Okay. Improve park access for health and wellness, trail signage, trail condition, benches and strategic locations. So it sounds like this.
There's a proposal at the CPC right now, so hopefully it'll be
Perfect.
underway.
Awesome. Green River water quality. What can be done to improve water quality for swimming?
Yeah, there was there was a real shame last summer that we didn't have that
Mm.
river.
Mhm.
Yeah, are we talking about the swim area, actual swim area, Nancy?
I was.
Yeah, I mean, we popped on some stuff this year we have never popped on, and it was only because of the drought and stagnant water. We can't really control upstream of geese and other wildlife doing their thing. I'm not sure what we can even do about it, and I wish we could, because we've been closed more than open the last 2 years due to sample hits.
Jeez.
Marla, can I ask, is any of that coming from like agriculture, like cows or sheep or something that's too close to the river?
No, well, Giardia is definitely a beaver issue that we got hit on, and a few others, but it's mostly E. coli, and it could be any animal, so to speak, producing that. And obviously, the less flow we had this summer, the higher the counts will be in the slow moving water from the wildlife, I guess, to put it in layman's terms, upstream. So.
Got it. Next one, similarly, restore Highland Pond for summer rec and winter recreation.
That's underway, we hope.
Very cool. Sidewalks and benches and street crossing safety, making walking more appealing. Underway. Awesome. Under public facilities, services and energy, mass save workshops for residents. Amazing benefits. Let's share them. Green and Greenfield may offer 2 in February, but more would be good. Is that something that this committee might be interested in?
We've already talked about supporting that kind of as a committee to.
Yeah.
Previously.
Getting the word out more.
Right.
Yeah.
And making it a high priority.
Yeah.
2.
Excellent. Man, iPad hates me. Town-wide energy audit, like the one done in 2008, assess progress and what needs to be done. Underway. Thank you. Public-
Said underway?
Carol,
Yeah.
That- Tell me more.
ERCOT is offering us the, whatever it's called, the regional, it's called the net zero plan for the city and community wide. If we
Very
get
cool.
to
So
it.
we're getting some money to be able to do the audit, is that what you're saying?
We're getting assistance.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
awesome.
Great.
Um,
Can I go back above the Mass Save workshops? There was an oops, I messed this up. Sorry, Nancy.
yes, I don't know what that one.
What was that, Nancy?
You just have to delete
Oh,
that.
it was something, I think it might have been from,
Yes, it needs
you'll have
attention.
to ask Jonah.
Okay.
because I was
Oh.
working on the table.
I was
and-
gonna give it an underway, Nancy.
And it deleted and I didn't know what it said and I couldn't, it was gone.
We will ask Jonah to come back and fill it out. Public composting program, home pickup along with recycling. Greta put this in here. I would so love to see something like that happen as a terrible composter. Underway, MJ says, okay.
If you take the public out of it, we have Compost Collective doing some work with us, with the city to expand home composting.
Okay. Is it something that,
For it's an individual thing, it's for a fee.
Yeah, we're doing it.
So it's different from public, you're right.
Yeah,
There's a private outfit doing it now.
okay, all right. I will put underway on that. If there's a way to support that, is that something that this committee would be interested in, supporting that process, or they don't need support because it's a private entity? Is that the idea?
It's funded with some urban agenda grant to sort of as seed money to make it sustainable.
Got it. Very cool. Incorporate cost-effective green infrastructure and low-impact design strategies into all municipal projects and work with developers and residents on what they can do. Oops. Jonah says there appears to be great progress on some projects, but others appear to be lacking in commitment to LID, the low-impact design. Thoughts on that from folks in the know?
This is critical that we need to do this for resiliency for the future. We should have been doing, so I would say that on all fronts, public, private, every project, including expanding the industrial park, we need to incorporate ways to mitigate stormwater, and I forget what the rest of it said, but yes.
Okay, absolutely. I'll put that as a priority. The next one is stormwater. Continue to reduce I&I and downstream. Underway. Thank you. Flooding hazards, support MVP efforts to reduce flooding hazards.
That links up with the one before I would say.
Okay. Farm to school program and composting. Establish formal comprehensive farm to school program, build leadership team, attend retreats, set goals and objectives. Program will include educational experiences, community connections, local procurement, school gardens, etc. Also restart compost program and ensure sustainability.
Super, super, super important.
Yes, agree. Agree. If someone is
Did
joining,
Nancy put that in there or did Greta?
Greta
I
put
put
that
that in there.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I mean, she's doing, it can't hit enough buttons there when you're dealing with the kids and the schools, and it's vital.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know if the whole committee needs to be involved, but if there's some way we can support that work, I would love to.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more. And kids get so into it. It's just the coolest. And then finally, under education is energy efficiency skills development, either through GCC, local high school clubs, or regional VOC school develop curriculum and student or adult skills for energy efficiency service sector, not just insulation type jobs, but whole house knowledge with direction towards and help toward industry certification in various efficiency sectors like residential, commercial auditing, HERS raters, efficiency service jobs, program management.
I'm not sure the committee's role in that, but I would say it is a big priority. There are some initiatives going on. I added some more in the other column that it also needs to apply to trades. We have a desperate need for a lot of people with skills, and we have a lot of populations that could use help. So I've seen some that are really successful with prisoners. There's a big homeless population. And I know they're doing stuff at the Franklin Tech School. I love the Stone Soup Cafe initiative. I mean, those are the ways we're going to solve our problems. So,
Yeah.
And that's the intent of what I wrote too.
I'm sorry?
That's the intent of what I wrote, to help develop those trades that can really make a difference in energy efficiency.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Should I put that down as a 2? I did hear you say, Carol, you're not exactly sure how we interface with this one.
Yeah. I don't know as a committee. I know I'm working on trying to make some things bubble up, but as you can imagine, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
huge.
Let's see.
So it's a 1 and a 3.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I can put a 1 and a 3, and we'll read that to mean that we're interested, but we don't know what to do. Okay. Very cool. So that's the whole list. And just to recap quickly, the things that kind of rose to the top as priorities. The first was safeguarding agricultural land, though there was a note there that that might be somewhat of a future idea and initiative. Green River Trail was a strong priority. Just about everything to do with downtown was both underway and a priority, which I feel like downtown has been a priority for us pretty consistently, slightly interrupted by COVID, slightly. And that included everything: downtown art and activities, downtown beautification, citizen energy initiative, upper story residential development, and the rehabbing of abandoned homes.
And the very first one, and maybe it just goes into downtown, but the thing about reducing land loss to development and all the details about, that Carol spoke passionately about, the need to bring in an expert so people can understand what this looks like and what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if that's part of it's maybe sort of part of downtown, but it's a little different.
It's certainly related, though, for sure. I'll change that first one to a sort of 1-4 as related to other things underway, but not to be lost sight of, I think. Mass save workshops for residents was also identified as a priority, a great thing to communicate. Incorporating cost-effective green infrastructure and LID strategies into all municipal projects. And then the farm to school program and composting. Carol, sorry.
No, I there's a few things I would like to add. One thing, kind of maybe putting an asterisk, that even if something's underway, I think we really need to work to make sure it is the most sustainable outcome that we can get.
Yeah.
Especially when we're dealing with things related to infrastructure or, these kind of long-term visions that there's just so much great stuff going on, and we really need to be not just doing what business as usual. We're in a new frontier here, and things are much more high stakes, I guess I would say, but there's a lot of great solutions out there. And I'll just add, and then I'll get off my soapbox, but what I've seen over and over again is that when the most sustainable solution is implemented, it tends to cost less or at the very least saves money long-term and is less maintenance. And I've just seen amazing things, and I'll highlight Providence again. I love them, and mind-blowing stuff. And there's other communities around. So I would just like to make that kind of rise to the top, that even if something's underway, it doesn't mean, okay, great, we're done. I think we
Yeah.
really need to push the envelope. And I know that makes me very popular.
I think with this committee, it does. Absolutely. Noted. That's a really
And-
good point.
So,
I might break
Carol?
Nancy's heart, but I'll just say that I'm not sure that Mass Save workshops are the wisest use of resources. So we'll be talking next week, and I'd love to pursue some other ideas.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Mass Save myself, but they run the whole efficiency business through utilities, but the quality of their services for residential is severely lacking. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all focused towards utility type programs and not really helping people with things that aren't outside those parameters.
Could I ask Carol? Carol, would it be helpful for you to go through the things that were marked 1 and tell us which ones you thought should be 1/2s?
I can try. I gave up kind of looking at both because I kept losing the meeting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll take a look afterward.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a huge frontier of learning, and myself included. I wish I knew everything, and I'm constantly looking at great examples of what's being done. So again, I hope that there might be space for that within the SGIC, however
Mhm.
it's determined to be effective. But I think that again, it's so easy to get depressed, especially with what I do. And so I have to look to these great examples to keep going. And depending on the day, yesterday I was totally not hopeful, eating too much chocolate. Today I'm hopeful again. So I don't know. We got to ride it. And it's like 6:30. So.
Totally. God, Carol. I
But
just
wasn't that fun? We did it. The
couldn't
whole
agree
thing.
more. That was fun. That was fun and really, really interesting. And I think a high priority of this committee to keep you from getting depressed. So we accomplished that tonight for sure. And it's great to see these priorities. So please also feel free to keep putting comments and such in here. Feel free, as comments grow, you do run the risk with a Google Doc of deleting someone else's comment. Feel free to add a column and put your name at the top, and then just put your own comments in there on things, because I think that really is something, that's what this is for, to the point, especially I think about putting a 1 on something being underway. We need more information about what that means, because it doesn't mean that we might not plug into that thing at some point, especially if we get our forums back online and public opinion and all of that. So it's 6:33. Any pressing announcements? Yeah, Phil.
Oh, I was gonna make a motion that we adjourn.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That is pressing.
I second
Yes.
that.
Second, thirded, fourth.
Wait, one last thing though.
Yes.
Do we have a December meeting?
We do. Our December meeting is December 22nd, which we had confirmed as being an okay date.
All right.
But
And it's now no good for me, so
it doesn't work for you now? Is that what you said?
No,
Kim?
I'll
And
be out
Carol
of
feels
town.
like maybe that doesn't work for you either.
Doesn't
know.
either.
It doesn't work for you either. People,
But I know Jessie, and
about
you're
this.
gonna love her. So
she's wonderful. I mean, we could, I know when we talked about this before, it sounded like this date worked for folks, but I did have a feeling that it might be close, getting real close to the holidays. Do we want to revisit the date? Do we want to skip December and meet in January?
Do we want to do an email so we can include who's missing?
Not here. I'll do that. I'll follow up with an
Yeah.
email and we can have an email discussion about the date. Okay, absolutely.
Sorry, I know you've been working on getting Jessie here for a few months now, and I've heard she's amazing.
She's amazing. I'm so excited.
Isn't she a personal trainer too?
Love her.
yeah.
Yes, yeah. She and her husband own F45 Fitness. She's just like high energy, but also really down to earth. She's one of those odd intersections of those two things. She's awesome. Really so pumped to have her. But yes, I will start up a meeting discussion, and it's no problem if we reschedule with her. She's so busy, crazy, but she is excited to meet those of you she has not met yet and hear more about what we do and how she can support it. So it'll be good. Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much. If we don't see each other, have a
Well, let's
wonderful
vote. Let's
holiday.
vote. We have to vote to
Yeah, we have
adjourn.
to vote to adjourn.
Okay, with
It's
the
been
motion,
moved.
and the voting. Okay. All
I
those
don't think
in
any-
favor
yeah.
of adjourning? Anybody against it?
Aye.
Marlo, you didn't vote. You want to hang out?
You asked me if I was against it. I said I had a plan. This
Marlo
is an
wants to
open night for
stay.
me.
You just want to kick it with us? That's cool. I love it.
What can I say?
I know. Awesome. All right, everyone. Have a really great night. Thank you all.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care.